Here today, we've got the Golf R, the all-wheel drive, muscle-bound version of the hot hatch that started it all. And we've also got the Toyota GR Corolla, everybody's favorite new rally-bred pocket monster, now with an automatic transmission. We are here at the Edmunds test track, so you know we've got to put them through the whole testing gamut. That means 0 to 60, quarter mile, braking, skid pad. We're gonna drive them around our track. Let's go. And we're even gonna put them on an autocross course to see how everything comes together. Are you ready? The Golf R could be a comfortable daily driver with plenty of utility, or when you want it, tons of power and even a drift mode. This is the most powerful hot hatch that you can buy right now in the US. And if you want a sport compact with any more horsepower, you're gonna have to drop another 20 grand on something like an AMG CLA 45 or an Audi RS3. Let's check out the testing numbers. The Golf R has a quick shifting dual clutch 7-speed automatic, and it got a slight 13 horsepower bump for 2025, so we're expecting it to be a little quicker than the last one that we tested. We used launch control to get the best results on our acceleration straight. Now, 4.5 seconds to 60 is a pretty good time, but surprisingly, that's a hair slower than what we got in the last Golf R we tested. To test braking, we drive along at 60 miles an hour and then slam on the brakes. The Golf R came to a grinding halt in 111 feet without any real drama. On our skid pad, the hatchback pulled 0.96 lateral G, a strong result, but again, slightly behind the old Golf R. I'm noticing a trend here. On our scales, the Golf R weighed in at 3,376 pounds, about 100 pounds less than the previous car. Those weight savings are due to the Golf R's newly available Euro-style package, which includes lighter 19-inch alloy wheels, a sunroof delete, and a titanium exhaust system, saving about 80 pounds in total. Let's see how all this stacks up against the Toyota. This car is based on Toyota's $23,000 compact, but the GR Corolla, it's a completely different beast. That 3-cylinder engine under the hood and the all-wheel drive system beneath me, those were both developed to be put into actual race cars, and that gives this thing plenty of street cred. But let's see how it does after we hook up all of our testing equipment. The Toyota has a more conventional 8-speed automatic with a torque converter instead of the Golf R's dual clutch. What you need to know is that dual clutch cars usually launch harder and shift faster, and our testing results reinforce that general wisdom. Not only was the GR Corolla significantly slower than the Golf R, it's also far behind the manual transmission model we tested last year, something that we very rarely see in modern cars. Braking performance was about equal to what we got in the Volkswagen. These two have roughly the same braking hardware, so no surprises there. On our skid pad, the GR Corolla beat out the Golf R by a hair, and our test team noted its impressive stability under hard cornering. The GR Corolla showed a similar number to the Volkswagen on our scales as well, even with one fewer cylinder. As you might expect, this pair isn't as svelte as some of its front-wheel drive competition, like the Honda Civic Type R, which weighs about 200 pounds less. Though these two had very similar results when it came to braking and on the skid pad, it was a dominant performance from the Golf R when it comes to acceleration. It gets away quicker and pulls harder than the GR Corolla, which feels sluggish off the line even with launch control engaged. That 3-cylinder engine doesn't really get going until you're higher up in the rev range, and that hurts it off the line. That gives the Golf R a pronounced edge in terms of the numbers, but now it's time to see how all of this plays out on the track. Track time. Launch control activated and more power, significantly quicker than the GR Corolla. Got about 85 miles an hour at the end of the straight there. We'll see what we get in the Toyota. Now, the Golf R is highly customizable. You can dial in many different suspension settings, a bunch of different drivetrain settings. It's just got a lot of sort of electronic things that you can play with that you're not going to find in the Toyota. Bite. Turn in. Come on. Right now I'm in the custom drive mode. This transmission really is excellent. It's a dual clutch box, which the GR Corolla doesn't have, and it shifts very quickly. Left on its own, it's not quite as aggressive as I would like, but you can always just grab the paddles yourself, make sure you're in the right gear. And I've actually got the suspension dialed up a little bit past race to make it stiff. And so coming over the hill here, where it's really important to have a very stable suspension so you can get it to rotate down in here. Our track is a little bumpy, but the stiffness is great. The body control of this vehicle is really excellent. Oh, it's super stable through that chicane. Here we're on the back straight, coming into the hardest braking zone on the track, and you know, the stopping distance on this car is not bad. There's just a bit of a dead spot at the top of the pedal that I don't really like. It's pretty stable under braking. This suspension, again, does a really good job of controlling the body, but I just want more initial bite, especially because you're cooking pretty hard in this car coming out the back. Let's go. Hold on, car. Oh, I love the way this thing gets out of corners. All right, coming up here into the last hairpin before the straight. This thing does a great job of putting down power on corner exits. A little slide there and just bang. This transmission is so good, it just rips off shifts. The Golf R does come with a bunch of different drive modes. So you have your usual ones, Eco, Normal, Sport. You also have a few different race modes. So there's standard race mode. There's also a drift mode, which literally lets the rear hang out. And there's also a special Nürburgring mode, which is designed for the Nürburgring Nordschleife. And that is basically everything dialed up, but the suspension pretty soft because that's a pretty bumpy track. Now we're not using that today. Our track is a little bit smoother. But the thing that I really like is you can actually go into this car's custom drive mode and you have a ton of different suspension settings and all these other for the powertrain, for the exhaust, all this stuff. There's actually a slider for the suspension and you can actually dial it up stiffer than race. So right now, to get the most out of this car and actually have it in custom with everything cranked all the way up, and that level of malleability makes it good to drive on the street when you want to be comfortable, and it also means that out here, it can be as composed as you need it to be. If I have a complaint, it's that it's a bit dialed in towards understeer. So as you're coming into a corner, like the one down here at the end of our front straight, and you really want the nose to bite, there are times when the nose pushes a bit when you really want to get it down in, and it can make it hard to hit apexes, and the electronics, they just feel like maybe a half step behind from letting you do that. And all of those electronics that allow you to customize all these things, they do add a bit of a layer between you and the driving experience. This is not a pure driver's car in the way that the old kind of GTIs were, but that being said, it's way, way quicker out here than any of those cars. Let's hop on the Toyota and see what it can do. Definitely not as much of a getaway as the Golf R got. About 78 miles an hour heading out of the end of the straight, so this thing's got 300 horsepower, but that Volkswagen just puts its power down way better. We'll say this though, I love this steering wheel. It's the exact right size. I love how this thing just slides around. Okay, here we go, coming into the front straight. This hairpin, rear loves to step out a little bit. There it goes, and here we are. Okay, down at the end of this straight is the toughest corner on the track. And the nice thing about the GR Corolla is that unlike the Golf R, it's got a little bit of a tendency towards oversteer. So I can just kind of pitch it in and use the slide to actually get down to the apex. And it's incredibly satisfying every single time. In the Golf R, where it has a tendency to push, this thing can just get it to rotate just a hair with little effort, and it's super, super predictable every single time. I've driven this track a lot, and it's a lot easier to put the car where I need to be in the GR Corolla than in the Golf R. Oh, this thing's so fun. Whoever built this at Toyota, I just want to shake your hand. Now we got to talk about the transmission because I think that is my least favorite part of the vehicle. I remember what it was like to drive the manual car around our track with Clint next to me. Oh my God. And I was just having a lot more fun in it. And part of the reason is that Toyota doesn't have a dual clutch transmission to really put in this thing. So the shifts are noticeably slower, and when you're letting it shift the gears by itself, it feels a step behind. But even with these paddles, it's just a bit hard to keep this engine in its power band. And when you're talking about 3 cylinders and a ton of boost, that's really important. I will say this though, so the Golf R has lots of different drive modes. Here in the GR Corolla, none of that stuff. You just basically put the thing in the sport, turn the ESC into expert mode, or turn it all the way off if you want. But the one thing that you can sort of control here that you can't do in the Volkswagen is you have this little knob right here that lets you control the torque distribution. Now, track used to be a straight 50-50 split. Now it's a variable split. It'll oscillate between 60-40 and 30-70 depending on what the computer thinks you need. But I trust this computer because it seems to make the perfect decisions all the time. Here we go. There she is. Is it more quick? No. Is it more fun? You bet. Now it's time for the Autocross to see how these two put everything together. Now we know from our testing data that the Golf R is the quicker of the two, but from our time on the track, the GR Corolla, it was a bit more predictable, had less understeer, and you can get on the power a bit earlier. So let's see how they do in this timed exercise. Here in the Golf R, it is set up for max attack, so custom drive mode with everything dialed all the way up, traction control fully off. John is gonna time for us, and here we go. Launch control, boom. Oh, this thing gets off quick. When it shifts in a second, there's like a big surge of power. It's kind of cool. 2 laps of this course. First lap, we're gonna go inside and hit the chicane. Second lap, we're gonna go outside and carry a bit more speed through. Nose pushes a touch, but it does get back in the line pretty quickly. Here we go. Outside lane now, carry a bit more speed. Come on, car. Starts to rotate a bit and hard on the brakes. Understeer. And across the line. How'd we do, John?
39.38 seconds.
All right, 39.38 for the Volkswagen. Let's see how the Toyota does. Okay, Toyota time, same thing. Max attack, so traction control fully off. All-wheel drive in the track setting, and activate launch control, and here we go. Definitely does not get off as quick as the Volkswagen does. But let's see if you can make up for it around the course. Turn in tight here. Jigging into the chicane. I do like the way that this turns in a lot more. It just has a bit more trouble putting the power down. It feels like it just doesn't shoot out of the corners in the same way that the Golf does. Out wide now. Final turn, and across. All right, John, how do we do this time?
40.12.
40.12, so about 0.8 of a second slower. Yeah, you can definitely feel that this GR Corolla doesn't quite get out of the corners in the same way that the Golf R does. No surprise, the quicker car won the Autocross. But I had so much fun in this thing. If you've enjoyed watching us drive these cars fast around the Edmunds test track, there's a place where we go even faster. Be sure to check out our U-Drags Performance series, and please like and subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Now, when it comes to value, there is not a lot separating these two hatchbacks. Both of them cost over $50,000. And yes, even though the Golf R is about $3,000 more, it's probably about $3,000 more worth of car you're getting as well. So as the results of our instrumented testing and the Autocross have shown, the Golf R is clearly the superior performance vehicle. And on top of that, it is also the one that's much better to live with day to day. It has an interior that actually feels like a $50,000 car and not like it came from 2014. And with that adjustable suspension, you can make it comfortable as a daily driver, something that you cannot do in the Toyota. So if I had to pick one of these cars to live with and commute with and to do everything with, the Golf R is the clear choice. But all that being said, there's just something about this Toyota that I can't shake. It offers a mechanical driving experience that the Volkswagen just can't match. And you can tell that just from looking at their steering wheels. The Toyota steering wheel, it's perfectly sized and it's got all these physical buttons on it, super easy to use, very tactile. But in the Golf R, its steering wheel is covered in these touch-sensitive haptic controls that never quite seem to work right and that you always hit on accident whenever you're driving. There's a digital layer between you and whatever the Golf R is doing that you just don't get in the GR Corolla, and that is the core of its appeal. So if I had to pick one of these cars just to take for the weekend or to drive at the track, I would be really tempted to take the Toyota, but I wouldn't take this one. I would take the manual, save $2,000, go faster, and have even more fun. Thanks for watching.